Okay, so let's continue with our discussion. This time I'm going to wax eloquent concerning evaluating polynomials. And this time we're going to evaluate the polynomial f of x equals x cubed minus 3x squared plus 6x minus 7. And we're asked to evaluate f of -1 or f of 0 and f of 2. Well, what does that mean other than this? Of course, you remember the way our function notation works. We're just going to make a substitution. So if I say something like f of -1, it means everywhere I see -1, everywhere I see x in this expression, I'm going to replace it with -1. And I would say you need to be very careful about using parentheses. So whenever you see a parenthesis, whenever you see x, you're going to put your number, especially if it's a negative number, in that parentheses before you evaluate it. So in this case, this is the way this expression will look by my substitution of -1, or whatever the negative number is. Now we should carry out, in our order of operations, the exponents will come first. There's nothing we can do in these parentheses. So -1 to the third, of course, is -1. It's -1 times -1 times -1. We're going to be subtracting from that 3 times -1 squared becomes +1. And +6 times -1 is going to become -6 minus 7. So if we continue on with our problem, we're going to be taking -1 minus 3 minus 6 minus 7. We just got a string of negative numbers right here, so it's just like adding them up. This becomes -4 minus 6 minus 7, which would be like saying -10 minus 7, which is going to be the same thing as -17. So f of -1 is equal to -17. All right. How about f of 0? Well, f of 0, luckily 0 is usually an easy one when it comes to polynomials, because all we really have to do is replace x with 0 and observe what happens. And when that occurs, it's always the case that all of our variable terms will simply drop out because we're multiplying by 0, replacing it with 0. And so in this case, you see that all these terms go to 0, and we're left with f of 0 is equal to -7. Right? So you can consider it this way, that if you are evaluating a polynomial at 0, you're going to always end up with the constant term at the end. One more here. Let's check out f of 2 just to see what happens here. Let's work this out. F of 2 is going to be equal to 2 cubed minus 3 times 2 squared plus 6 times 2. That should be a 6 up there, minus 7. And we're just going to carry out all the algebraic steps, of course, in order of operations. We're going to take 2 to the third, giving us 8, minus 3 times 2 squared, which is 4, plus 6 times 2, which is 12, minus 7. If we do the multiplication, we're going to get 8 minus 12 plus 12 minus 7. Well, -12 and +12, that's pretty easy, right? That just goes to 0. So we're actually left with 8 minus 7. And so we end up with +1. So f of 2 is equal to +1. And one lesson that should be learned right here about this is that when we are evaluating a polynomial, it's always possible that we end up with a very small number by substituting in a larger value. Right? Notice that 1 is smaller than f of 0. So the value of x really has only a little bit to do with what the value of y is, other than the fact that we use our expression right here to evaluate at that number. All right, f of 2 equals 1, so more in the next video.